hope you guys are doing well. I just wanted to jump on here real quick and share something with you. So, go with me on this little journey. The journey. Some of you may know, if you followed my post, that recently I was going through a really difficult time. And the way you may know that is if you saw my birthday post. I wasn't real happy about celebrating a birthday. And who's not happy about celebrating a birthday? Everyone's happy about birthdays. But this year, you know, came and this number was flashing before my eyes, and all of the things that I had not done or I wanted to do were flashing before me. And, you know, I just wasn't real happy. I wasn't finding joy in my journey, and I wasn't happy about where I was. And I felt like God was not hearing me, hearing my prayers, or seeing my plight, or listening to my heart. Like, I felt like I was forgotten. And I knew something needed to change. I didn't know if it needed to be me or my circumstances or both. Actually, I did know it needed to be all of the above. I needed me to change. I needed my circumstances to change. I needed my relationship with the Lord to change. And so I decided that every day for 3 weeks that I would pray at 3 p.m. And I'm jumping on here today because the culmination of that 3-week period is ending. It's coming to a close now. So I just wanted to share a little bit with you about that journey and about that process. So I've been praying every day at 3 o'clock for 3 weeks. And I will say, I didn't get real ritualistic about it. Some days I wasn't able to make the 3 o'clock mark, but as closely as I could stick to that schedule, I did. And even if I couldn't do it right at 3 o'clock, I either did it before or made sure that I did it afterwards. I got prayer in every single day. And you might be saying, well, shouldn't you do that anyway? Yeah, we should do that anyway. But was I doing that anyway? No, I was not being intentional about stopping my life to make time to pray. And my friend Jason McMullen from Deeper Fellowship Church preached a sermon on Sunday, and I listened to part of it, and it was crazy because he was talking about prayer, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so crazy because I just have been on this prayer journey. But he talked about he listed a quote that Martin Luther said, and it was not Martin Luther the king like me, but the Christian reformer. He said, as it is the business of tailors to make clothes and cobblers to make shoes, so it is the business of Christians to pray. We know that. We know we should pray all the time. We should pray without ceasing. And I will be going about my day and say prayers. I probably don't go a day without praying, but I was not being intentional about my prayer life and about seeking God and about finding out answers to the season that I have been in, and the whys and all of that. I had not been intentional. I'd been crying out to God, crying, but I had not been praying. So I also asked people to join in with me because I believe that there is strength and power in numbers. And I know that so many people have been on this journey with me and believing with me. And so I asked people to join me. And when I tell you, from the very first day that I set out to be intentional about this prayer until now, where the time that I set for it to be done, it has been nothing short of incredible. The very first day I felt God's presence so strongly. I cannot begin to tell you how I had been lacking that and missing that communion in my life. And I realized that this was not by happenstance. I wasn't just in a tough season. I was being driven to my knees because God knew that I needed him. I needed to get to this place where I would seek him out of my desperation, and that I would be one with him in a way that I had not been in a very long time. So when I tell you that I started to shift my perspective even as early as like the second and third day of this prayer journey, and realizing that this was good. that it was good for me to go through this so that I would be brought to my knees, so that I could experience God in his presence the way that I had been, because there is nothing like the presence of God. And I don't know how some people do it, and you know, to each his own. Live and let live. Y'all live how you want to live if you so choose. If you're not a believer, I understand. I mean, I don't understand, but you know, I'm saying that I respect your choice. However, I cannot get through this life without my God. There is absolutely no way possible that I could make it on this journey without him. And I'm talking even in the times that I'm not critically praying like I have been. I know that I can't make it through each day of this life, in this life, without him. So being able to experience his presence in that way was just, I mean, it was transformative. And then I realized that I was in a better place. Like within a week, I was in a whole new place. Did anything about my circumstance change? No, absolutely not. I didn't see any of the things that I had been praying for yet. I haven't seen, well, some of them I have, and I'll get to that. But at that time, a week in, nothing had changed. But I had started to change. My perspective started to shift. I found joy and peace because I found it in him, and I wasn't looking to my circumstances, and I wasn't worried about what my circumstances were saying. So fast forward, kept praying, and then I started to see some shifts in my circumstances. Not permanent things, but things that let me know that God was right there and he was walking with me. I'm talking about people coming and blessing me out of the blue with things that I was not expecting. And I'm talking substantial blessings that literally brought me to my knees and brought me to tears. So God was providing for me, which I had asked him to do, but in ways that I had not expected. And there was one of the weeks where an artist that I got, a worship artist that I like, Shayna Wilson, she had posted, this week God is going to do exceedingly abundantly above all that you could think or imagine. We know that that's scripture. We know that he does that all the time, but she specifically, learn how to talk, targeted that particular week. And when I tell you, that week was so full of abundance for me, and it wasn't, again, a permanent shift in my circumstances, but it was that God was providing and showing me how much he was there and how much he cared. I had friends step up and care for me in just ways I can't even begin to describe. And I went and I had auditions that were amazing. And no, I didn't book anything, but I feel so much closer, and I feel like I made an impact and I left a mark, and I did what God created me to do in these rooms. And so I know that he is moving. And another thing that Jason said, Jason, I'm still in your sermon right now, so, you know, I'll give you some royalties or something. But another thing that he said was, it's in the context of prayer that a move of God happens. Now, we know that God is always moving. We know that he's always speaking. However, I became more aware of what he was doing and what he was speaking because I set aside time to pray, because I was intentional about prayer. And I began to see an increase even in my faith, because my faith was weak. My faith had started to wane because I was like, how can I continue to believe when God isn't hearing me, when God is not moving, when he's not doing what I expected or what I wanted to see? And another thing that Jason said, thank you, Jason, copyright, is that the language of faith is prayer. And so as I continued to pray, my faith was ignited. And so I started to see a shift in me. I started to see a change in some of my circumstances. And then that boosted my faith. And I was able to pick myself up out of that pit and believe again. Well, I didn't really pick myself up. God picked me up out of it. And I was able to believe again. Now, to the people that have been praying with me, those of you who have been praying with me, I don't know what you may have experienced during this time, but I know in the times that I have prayed in person with some of you, it's been so powerful. So I know God is not just doing something for me. I know he's doing something for you, not just because you're praying for me, but because you're praying, and he is rewarding those who diligently seek him. So he's rewarding you as well as he's rewarding me. So there is such power in this thing called prayer, and I say it again and again, and I know it. I just, was in the season where it was not in question, but I was weak. But prayer has strengthened me, and I know that prayer works. In the life of a believer, prayer works, you guys. So the whole point of me going on this journey was to first seek and get to God. More than my dreams, more than the things that I'm seeking, but to get to him, because there was a disconnect. And when that disconnect was restored, immediately, guys, as soon as I was intentional about prayer, that disconnect was restored. And then as that began to happen, he began to shift my heart. He began to shift my mind, and then the circumstances, and then, and then. And so I believe that more than our dreams, we can seek God for dreams and for changes of circumstances and all of that. But more than that, he's concerned about who we are and who we are becoming in the process and in the journey. So I have now more than ever understood the purpose of this journey that I'm going through, or that I'm going on. I understand that there is such great value and purpose in what he's having me walk through, even in the difficulties, that he's moving even in the difficulty. And I know that it's not just about me booking Broadway. And will that happen? Only he knows. I pray that it will, but I understand that even if it doesn't, there has been purpose in this journey. There has been a call to this, because I've been able to reach people that I would not have reached otherwise. And those of you who have come to me and said, I had given up on my dream, or I didn't even realize that I wasn't going after my dreams, and seeing you so passionate and seeing you persistent and never give up, that has made me want to go after what God has placed in my heart. And you guys telling me that makes me know that every part of what I've been through, every tear, every time that I felt alone, every time that I felt depressed, every time that it has felt dark, or I have felt like throwing in the towel or giving up, every single one of those times has been worth it, because you have gotten what you need because of this, because God has given you what you need and ignited something in you because of what he's doing in me. And that, guys, is such a reward. It's such a great reward. And it may even be greater than the reward of seeing the thing that I've been praying for. Because I don't know. But I will say that I have just been so ignited in my faith and in my prayer life through these times of prayer every day at 3 o'clock. And so I said all that to say that I want to encourage you, if you are believing God for something, if your faith is waning, if you are seeking him for something, please be intentional about your communication with him. Be intentional about your prayer life, not just seeking him for things and asking him for things, but seeking his face and his presence, and just being intentional about spending time with him, because you never know what he's going to unfold and what he's going to do. I know that I am a better person right now than I was 3 weeks ago. I know that I have more hope today than I had 3 weeks ago. I have more joy in my heart and about my journey today than I had 3 weeks ago. I have more answers today than I had 3 weeks ago. And had I not been intentional about this, I could have still been in that pit. I could have still been in that place of despair. So I am so grateful to God for speaking to my heart, and for being obedient to get to this place. Our journeys are difficult. They're not always great. And we will find ourselves in seasons that we don't understand. Even as believers, even as faithful believers, we will find ourselves in positions that it's like, God, are you serious right now? Are you even do you even see me down here struggling? Because these are the things I say to God. Yeah, I do, because, that's how we are. But I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I have sown and I have tried to live right, and I have, and I don't always get it right. So don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to be puffed up in that. But I know that I have put forth an effort, and there are people out there who just living however they want, doing whatever they want. And the very blessings that I'm praying for, you're allowing them to have. What? But he had to shift my perspective, and I had to get to the place where I understood that that was not what it was about. That he wanted me in a place where I could depend on him, where I would fully and completely trust him with the outcome of this journey. And my agent said something to me, and I thought it was really funny because y'all, one thing y'all see, you know, my persistence and my faith, but y'all don't see when I'm like melting down sometimes and I'm freaking out and I get anxious and, you know, I'm like, well, this needs to happen and that needs to happen. And my agent said something to me that like has stuck with me since then. Hey, agent. FSC talent, shout out. But what he said to me was, you don't get to decide what the process will be. You don't get to decide that. That is totally and completely up to God. He is the one who is in control. And all you can do is submit to that process. So that is the other thing that God has dealt with me strongly about. Surrender. Submitting to his will. Because I can have all these desires all day long, but what does God want from me? What is his will for my life? What does he want? So I had to get to a place where I was like, okay, I need to put some things on the back burner and I need to surrender. God, whatever you want, whatever you say. And I open myself up to hear from you instead of closing myself off and thinking that it has to be this way and it's only going to be this. No, God, I surrender. And then the last thing that I did, because I know that the things that I'm praying for, they're coming. I truly believe that. But I had to even surrender those things to him before I even see them. God, I lay them down at your feet now. I don't wait until I get there, until I get those things or see those things to dedicate it back to you or to give it back to you. No, I give it to you now. I surrender to you now before it even comes to pass, before it even manifests itself in my life. God, I cast my crowns. I lay it all down at your feet because nothing is more important than you. Nothing. And when you get to the place where God really knows that you're serious about that, about him and his presence and his face and not his hand, that's when you begin to see a move of God. So again, I don't know what it is you're seeking him for today or what it is you may need from God, but I encourage you. And it may not be the same way that it was for me. I'm not telling you it has to be at 3 o'clock every day or whatever, but sacrifice in some way. Surrender to God. Be intentional about your walk with him. And especially seasoned believers, because, you know, those of us who are seasoned, you know, we go on and we know the word. And so we don't have to go sit down and study. But yeah, you should continue to do those things. And you should continue to seek him in prayer, even if you're seasoned, even if you've been on this road for a while. And that's what happens. A lot of times, some of us get jaded. We get jaded and we don't realize that something has shifted and something has changed in us and we are not as desperate and hungry for God as we should be. And the world sees desperation as weakness, but for God, in our weakness, that's when he's made strong. So you want to see God be made strong in your life? Be desperate, be broken, be dependent on him. And you'll see him move in ways that you have not experienced before. So as I wrap up this time, I am so grateful. And I can say that with all assurance, just like David said, it was good for me to be afflicted. I can say that with certainty and with a smile on my face. It was good for me to be brought to my knees. It was good for me to go through this season of darkness, so that I could get to this light and so that I could be at a place where I'm compassionate to the needs of others and so that God could use me for his glory. And that in this journey, not for 1 second would I ever attribute it to my hard work or anything that I did, that I know that no door opens or closes for me without him. I am nothing without him. I am nothing without my surrender to him. So that's what this time has been about for me, and that's what I've gotten, and I just wanted to share that with you. And I know this was long. I've never done a video this long. This was like it's like almost 20 minutes, y'all. What the heck? It's like almost 20 minutes. But I hope that you have gotten something out of this, and I hope that it will encourage you on your journey. I love y'all. Bye.